is very excited here. Altec is a great supporter of us and have many mutual clients. And today we're going to learn more about DocLink. So Kurt, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Great, Kim. Thank you very much. And can you see my screen?
Perfectly.
All right, great. So I am Kurt Hickson. I am the Central Sales Director here for Altec, and I'm going to be walking through a little bit of document management and what we have to offer. So I do want to say thank you, Kim and InterDyn BMI, for having us. So let's go ahead and get started. So today, really what we're going to focus on is, how document management works in your organization. So from today, really what you're looking at is you're probably going to be storing documents in some sort of fashion, which is a filing cabinet for most folks, or maybe you've taken that next step and gone into that network file share. Network file share works good for a couple of days, and then naming convention, security getting away there. And then lastly, what we'll be focusing on today is software. So when you're looking into document management and different solutions out there, really what you want to focus in on is the different ways that document management can help leverage your business and streamline the process. So their core components really that you need to know about are, the first of all, being here, the capture method. DocLink offers various ways to capture documents and bring those into the organization. So we do have what we would call an enterprise report manager, which is our capture. We do have email capture, scan, barcode, and we do have some more robust type solutions in terms of modules with our import manager and OCR, the optical character recognition. We'll touch on import manager a little bit more as we go along here, but capture is a key component. Once you've captured these documents, now you're going to want to be able to access those documents, right? So we've captured using one of the various ways that we've already mentioned, and now we've stored these into our central repository. This allows you to index those documents. You can be able to search and retrieve those documents. We do have other platforms you can use to access those documents as well. So for the road warriors, we do have a mobile application and a web client. So now that we've captured and accessed documents and we're able to access these documents, really what we're talking about next is the process behind those documents. So we're really talking about the streamlining of those documents. With document management, you want to make sure you do have a robust workflow engine. Integration is key. So for the folks that live in the Dynamics ERP world, they don't necessarily want to be jumping in and out of softwares, right? They want to be able to continue their work within the ERP itself. So we do have tight integrations with the Dynamics ERP platforms. We do have some more robust modules, such as our SmartForm Toolkit. SmartForm Toolkit is really going to be the ability to recreate forms that you're currently using today. So if you're using, we'll say, an Excel form for expenses throughout the organization, we can actually duplicate that to help leverage and streamline the process behind those, creating a smart form. We do have things such as a data manager as well for those processes. So this is really the automation, being able to create rules around those automations and streamline that based off data provided on the documents that we've captured. So it's really the rules-based automation we're talking about with Data Manager. And then the last part I want to just briefly touch on is the ability to send documents out. So you have them captured, they're accessed, you push them through the organization, through their various processes. Now you want to be able to easily send those out. So we're talking more on the AR side of things, when customers are requesting information or vendors are requesting invoices, what have you. We can send this out in an automated fashion and be able to attach supplemental documents as well. So at its core, this is what document management means to DocLink, and this is what we're going to spend a little bit of time walking through today. So that being said, let's take a look what this looks like through the team's eyes. For most folks, AP is usually the low-hanging fruit in terms of document management. A lot of documents get pushed around, come in, left on people's desks for approvals and things like that. So we really want to try to make sure that people have access to documents, can approve those in a timely fashion, and really help reduce data entry as well. So instead of someone having to call an AP clerk to help get some documents, we want to give people access at their fingertips, right? So what we're looking at here is what we would call our smart client. This is actually the DocLink interface, and this is really the document repository. So folks would have access to this repository based on their role in the organization. So if there's a multi-company, maybe multi-divisions, you'd be able to search within those. You would be able to search for document types. So again, roles-based. So depending on your role in the organization are going to be the ability to view certain documents. So for here, you see we do have a plethora of documents you can search for. So in this case, we're just going to simply search for a PO number. And we can do a wildcard search. So if you don't know the exact PO number at full length, we can go ahead and search by certain criteria attached to that number. We can have the ability to search by annotations as well. So if you know you made an annotation on a document, you can actually search for that annotation as well. So in this case, we'll simply just search for a quick PO number, and we see that we're able to pull it up. You'll see there's a hyperlink. If you were to click on that hyperlink, we could see the associated documents that have been indexed by that purchase order number. And here, you can simply pull those up in a side-by-side fashion to compare and make sure everything looks correct. For faster approvals, really, again, so people that are out on the road, we have the mobile application where you can approve and deny, as well as just through your Outlook on your mobile device as well. And then you can simply approve and deny documents through Outlook, Gmail, whatever email provider you're using today. You would simply get the information that come through an email. It would look something similar to this. You'd have the approve and deny, and you can also view the attachment as well if needed. For minimizing data entry, really this is when the integration starts coming into play. This is what we would call our GL distribution stamp. So right now you have a quick little snapshot of what this would look like in terms of what it would look like in the document viewer. On one side you would have your AP invoice, on the other you would have what we call that distribution stamp. Here is where the coding for that document would begin. You see we do have some drop downs where we can actually help streamline the process of the coding, so we can include vendor names, vendor numbers, and you can do your coding down here and route this around so multiple people can code this document, not just one. So really we can push this around the organization and workflows to help streamline the process of the coding as well. Once everything looks good, you can go ahead and stamp, and you would import that. And once you import that, all the correlating documentation, what we would call the GL distribution stamp, would push into Dynamics ERP. So for accounts receivable, really again, we're talking about that output method. So the ability to send documents out when people request those. This really helps improve your customer service, accessing those backup documentations. So really what we're talking about here is being able to bring those documents together since they've already been indexed and they're in the repository, and send those out in an automated fashion. So here's just a quick example of what this would actually look like. And here you see we do have Boggs Boat's simple email template. You can make this look as pretty as you'd like with all your branding as well. But ideally what we'll do is we would be able to bring those documents that the vendor or maybe customer are requesting. And so in this case, we do have a copy of an invoice, delivery ticket, and the purchase order to send out. So it's as simple as that, bringing those documents together and sending them out in an automated fashion. For accounting managers, really, we're listing the key components to what they want to know within a document management solution. And visibility is a huge one, making better use of your staff's time and improved accuracy, right? So gaining that visibility as a manager, you want to be able to look into the system and see where documents are. So here is what we would have, just a simple snapshot of our audit history. This can be configured to however you want to be able to view this, and just a snapshot on the right here is how you would be able to do so. You can edit this and add different subjects if you would like as well. But really when it comes down to knowing where documents are, a step further from that audit history is what we would call a workflow supervisor. So this is more for the manager. Really here you're going to be able to view documents and know where they are at any given point in time throughout its workflow. You can view the status, where they are. You can actually, go ahead and look for documents by a certain status over here. You can, choose categories, just many different ways to actually search for documents and know where they are within the organization. You can cherry pick if you would like and maybe send this to a different person's workflow. If you know that you catch an invoice that is high priority, you can go ahead and move that forward without anybody else intervening there. So really, this is just a nice, robust tool, knowing where documents are at any given time and applying that to the process. So again, we're trying to get away from this vicious cycle to make better use of your staff's time. So really, the print copy, the manual, the filing, and the searching of paper does take a lot of time if you think about it. Walking over to a filing cabinet, walking to the printer, all these things come into play. So really what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're essentially cutting that in half. And this is really what we're talking about in that paperless process. We'll electronically capture those documents as they come into the organization or as they're created, and we'll route those around automatically using workflow and data manager and robust tools like that, and then have the ability to search for those documents from your desktop or mobile device or a web client even. So really, making better use of staff's time is really what we're focusing in there. For a CFO, right, saving money, decreasing costs, productivity gains, these are all things that jump out when for key concerns for a CFO. So really what we want to do here is, right, cut paper, cut copying, cut filing. If there are any off-site storage, the fees that are associated with that, not only the storage fees, but the retrieval fees, the time to get it to the organization, all this comes into play. This is really going to allow to reallocate time for strategic initiatives, not digging through boxes or hunting down documents. And you can actually grow the organization without having to add headcount. So the nice things to think about when you're looking at a document management is the ROI factors. And here I think shows a good point of where we can help out immediately. Auditors, right? We want to make sure we make this easy and simple for everybody involved, again, to reduce the time. Auditors come into the office or they request certain documentation. We can actually pinpoint those documents that they're requesting for their audit. We can actually bring these up and we can mark all those documentations for download. And when we do this, we have the ability to actually give them a similar functionality that they would if they were actually an employee, searching for documents within the software itself. However, they're only going to be able to search for the documents that pertain to their audit because we've downloaded all those and put it onto a CSV, and we gave them that search engine functionality. So they would actually have a screen that looks much like our interface, but would only allow them to search for documents that pertain to their audit. So we're really trying to simplify the audit, get those auditors in and out of the organization as fast as possible. Not only that, we're also giving a lot of folks internally time back in their day to keep the business flow going. So for all employees, really what we're talking about here is, if they're out and they want to get their expense reports taken care of, we want to help streamline this process as well. So really a quick example of a smart form and how we actually would use this would be through the mobile device. So with mobile device, we do have the ability to capture documents. In this case, for an employee, they're actually going to be capturing receipts. So the folks that are going, doing the business travel, going to lunch, things like that, they would simply be able to take photos of the receipts for their expenses. And so here's just a quick example of what that would look like. You would have a simple ability of doing some light kind of indexing, very, very basic, but essentially the idea is to help get the process going. So when you do get back into the organization or back to the web client, you're going to be able to populate those documents through that mobile app and have them attached here in an expense report. And this is what we would call our smart form. The smart form is, again, designated to recreate those forms you're using currently in the organization, but we want to be able to recreate those so we can leverage that and streamline process. So if you were using an expense report for or using Excel for your expense report, we would actually leverage the smart form in this case. So those photos that you took, you would be able to automatically auto-populate those, and you would be able to route this around for approvals from your manager. Your manager would be able to push that to accounting. They would then be able to, not have to re-index or re-input all the information because it's already been captured, it's been approved by a manager. They would simply be good to go. So again, really just quick ways to get documentation into the organization, help streamline the process. For an IT director, really what we're talking about here is the ability to, workflow delegation, minimal support required. You want strong security built on today's standards, right? So really what we hone in on this portion for an IT person is the ability for a workflow delegation. So if someone is going on vacation, maybe maternity leave, or they're just sick for the day, you can actually delegate your workflow. So your incoming documentations that would typically come to you, say for an AP person, an invoice, we can actually allocate those documents to go to a different user during your time of absence. And so really the idea here is to keep the business in flow while someone's out, avoid bottlenecks, and again, give visibility to where documents are at all given time. So as I mentioned, security filters, this is going to be roles-based. So, you're only going to be able to view documents within the company you work with, the department you're in, the types of documents that you would pertain to your role are going to be those documents you'll have access to in terms of security. For a sales director, we're really talking about expediting that sales process, right? Management contract agreements, if you're working on certain type of statements of work or an RFP or anything like that. This is really what we would call that import manager. So this is another way to bring documents into the organization, but this would help streamline a process like the sales process. So if a salesperson were to receive a sales order from a customer or a vendor, they would simply have it look like this, right? It would hit their email inbox. They would be able to save that document to their desktop, and they can actually automatically drag and drop over our DocLink Smart Client, and those documents would automatically be pushed into DocLink for begin the process of that. We also have the ability with that import manager, so if we can monitor an email inbox, so if you do have an AP email sales@abc.com where invoices are coming in, we can monitor that invoice and automatically extrapolate those invoices, upload them into DocLink, notify someone that there's new documentation in there to, again, begin that process. So Import Manager is a great tool and a great way of streamlining the process in terms of maintaining documents coming into the organization through different ways. The mobile device, again, just touching on this. So again, for those folks that are out on the road, those sales directors or sales folks, they can access sales orders. They can actually input those sales orders via the mobile app as well to, again, begin that process. And here's just a quick little snapshot of what it would look like if you were logging into the mobile device itself. So for contracts, making those searchable, accessible, you want to get these things approved. Really, document management is something that we can help out with the tools that we offer. We'll take a quick look at document management for industry. We are not honed in on one vertical. We go across many verticals here, so it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Everybody has a paper process, and we just use manufacturing here as a small example. But if you think about it, every business, no matter what type of business you're in, what vertical, there is going to be a process behind those documents floating around the organization. Manufacturing happens to be where there's a lot of documentation that go from different departments, maybe warehouses, internally, so on and so forth. So we want to just show a quick example of how we can bring those documents together and know where they are. And we also have the ability to use version control. So with version control, it's the simple check-in, check-out type functionality. So if there's a document that multiple people are working on within the organization or maybe even external folks, we can actually check out this document. You can see every iteration of that document. So here in this example, we have 3 different versions, and you'll see that the top will have the most up-to-date. If you wanted to go back and look at the original one, very simple to do. The idea here, again, is to know where documents are, be able to access those, be collaborative with those. Once you've made your changes to that document, you would simply just check it back in to help, again, streamline that process. So we can track all versions using that. This is just a quick example of what a customer has given us. So version control is a nice way to, really get the best use out of your document management solution. So for distribution, supporting documents, accessing those documents, if you're on the road, you need to be able to have the ability to access those documents or create certain documents. So we have the ability, if you would like, to access documents via a web client. So you would have a very similar functionality as if you were at your desktop internally. Logging onto the interface here is just a quick snapshot of what that web client does look like. So the searching capability, being able to approve, deny documents, and route those through workflow. So field service, really what we're talking about here, again, is just the ability to access those documents. And we would do this through that mobile device, right? So again, you have the ability to search for documents. So in this instance, we'll go ahead and search for our work order. And you'll see that we can pull up multiple work orders. You can drill down to the one that you would need. You can see the pages that are attached there. You can see, who's been approved, who's requested it, the dates, and you can actually add annotations as well. And you can do the approve and deny, letting them know that you have approved this work order and you would begin the work on that. So, and we do have the ability to use a mobile form where you can actually, for those folks that are currently doing stuff in the field on paper, they would actually be able to use a mobile device to have that similar functionality, but instead of waiting to the end of the day to submit their paperwork, they would actually be able to do so straight from their mobile device, upload those documentations into a workflow, and begin the process. So again, really streamlining the process there. So that really is full circle of what I had planned to show today. Simply wanted to cover, what document management is and how many different ways you can use it across different levels of the organization and different departments. So this is just a very high-level overview, but it should give you a good starting point as to where you would want to begin with document management. And so to come full circle, we're really talking about document management as the ability to capture documents as they come into the organization through various ways, the ability to access those documents, again, from your desktop, from the mobile device, from a web client, applying processes to that. So we're talking robust workflows, integrations, the ability to recreate forms, and using robust modules such as Data Manager, again, with the rules-based routing. And again, that ability to send out documentation. So the Output Manager, applying supplemental documents. I gave that example in the AR portion. But this is really what I wanted to hone in on today, to walk through and give you just a quick taste of what DocLink can do and provide for your organization in terms of helping streamline and knowing where documents are at any given point, at any given time throughout the organization. So with that, I would like to go ahead and wrap this up. If there are any questions or anything, we can jump to Kim. I believe she might have been monitoring there and might have had a couple questions come through. So I do want to address those, but I also want to make sure that you are aware of us. You can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn. You'll find multiple information on YouTube as well. So again, if there's anything you need, you can always reach out to me directly. I'd gladly be able to set up a quick call, and we do offer, some business process reviews that we can, learn a little bit more about your business and how these modules that I spoke about can impact your organization today. So With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Kim to see if there's any questions, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Kurt. Excellent. So on the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see an area that says questions. If you could type in what you would like to ask, we'll get those addressed right now. The first one that came through, it says, do users of DocLink need to have Dynamics user licenses?
No, they don't. That's a great question. DocLink is actually a concurrent-based users. You do not have to have an Dynamics user license to access documents within the repository.
Okay. Another one is, in the demo, you are processing an invoice that wasn't originated by a purchase order. We occasionally use purchase orders. Does your workflow support other documents besides invoices?
Yes, absolutely. Really, any type of documentation that comes through the organization, we would be able to work with those.
Okay. Let's see. When you were showing the GL Smart Form and you chose the drop-down boxes to select accounts and vendors, can you restrict that list so only each manager can only see their own materials?
Yes, absolutely. So we can even hard code those as well. So if you are going to be using workflow and having multiple people code the document, and maybe certain people don't have many vendors to choose from, as an example, we can actually hard code that or just give them a reduced list so we'll minimize the error, really. So yes, to answer your question, we can absolutely do so.
Okay. Ron asked the questions, will this work with intercompany transactions?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Coming up with all good answers. All right. The last one in the queue here is they ask approvers to complete the GL account codes, but the accounting people like to select the accounting company and vendor information. Can the coding be shared by both the accounting people and the approvers?
Yes, it can. Absolutely. And you would do so with that GL distribution stamp that we showed. And you would simply just be able to route that through workflow, and they would have that same document viewer with the GL distribution stamp to apply their codes that they need to.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have in the queue here. I guess before we let folks go is do remember we have this promotion that you can get a 1-hour business process review so you can explain what you're trying to accomplish. And secondly, there's a promotion for BMI customers too, where you can get Import Manager for free if you invest in DocLink before the middle of October. So before we all head over to Summit. So thank you, Kurt. Any last words of advice before we let folks go?
No, not today. Do please contact me if there are any questions. Be happy to address those at any given time. But I do appreciate everybody's time, and thank you once again to InterDyn BMI for letting us to have this opportunity.
You bet. Thank you so much.